They have a Kennen. Playing this front-to-back team fight is really hard.
Well, Kramer managed to get his Kalista once again, but this time, Huanfeng is going to be on that Aphelios. Let's see which AD carry can come out on top. It was Huanfeng in the early game, Kramer in the late in game number 1. Let's see if the same story happens again.
Also, Huanfeng has not played Aphelios yet in LPL this split. Has typically been banned against them, and they've always gotten on the misfortune. 6 games of misfortune coming out from Huanfeng. We've already seen in the last 2 days how absurd Aphelios can be. So we're talking about, oh, Suning can't front-to-back team fight. If you hit a really good ultimate on the Aphelios, you can do anything.
Yeah, and also it's using the combinations of weapons effectively, especially the Crescendum Calibrum for poke, being able to get your turret down, it marks them for the sniper, and then you blast them with all of the chakrams as well. Incredibly effective combo. And then, obviously, I mean, Crescendum in general, I think, is probably the strongest of the weapons because it also allows you to go for those cheesy Baron rushes at 20 minutes.
Yup, the Crescendum with something like the Severum is really, really scary. We've seen the Crescendum with the Calibrum and what that can do. So that is really where all of your damage is. And kind of looking at where both of these teams want to play, SOFM has a lot of options. You can gank the top lane when you have a strong pressure champion like the Kennen. You have a lot of kill threat in the bot lane when you have something like the Thresh. You could go for the Flash, Flay, Lantern sort of play. So you're feeling good if you're SOFM. LGD with Peanut, I either want to see you go towards the mid lane, where you have a lot of CC in this Lissandra, or again, you also have good setup in the bot lane with your Nautilus.
Well, that's exactly what SOFM did in game number 1. He went for the level 2 play in the mid lane. We'll see if Peanut wants to try and answer that one this time around. Chance actually hooks to the side of the lane there. Sword Art misses the Flay, so both supports just going to be going wide on their abilities.
Yep, and Suning having the pressure in this first level when you do have a ranged champion like Thresh against a melee champion like the Nautilus, so feeling pretty good if you're Suning right now. Gonna try and stack up this wave, maybe get the bounce back, but we do see Peanut is on the bottom side of the map if they want to look for some kind of aggressive gank right now.
Yeah, he's gone for the Gromp to start things off here, and they'll be hitting level 2 very shortly as well. Lies taking a good chunk of damage up in the top side.
And we see Lies taking fleet footwork for the sustain in this lane. It is a pretty different rune than we typically see on the set.
Yeah, and the second wind there as well, so he's going to have quite a lot of sustain to be able to survive through the harass that will be coming on out. Peanut, though, there's a ward there to jump to. Huanfeng and Sword Art being way too aggressive here. Flay doesn't even land from Sword Art. Kalista, you can't escape her, and it's an easy kill for Peanut.
You know, the depressing part of that play was Sword Art just walked into the river brush. He knew Peanut was probably on the bot side of the map. He expected a play like this to come. Then he still just walked back into lane. He could have even just played back, held maybe that Lantern, and let Aphelios clear out the wave.
Yeah, and you can see pretty much every summon is still available in that bottom side as well. Huanfeng used the heal, but Sword Art doesn't flash away. He knows that he's already made that mistake. He knows that he's done for in that situation. So, unfortunate start to things for the side of Huanfeng and Sword Art, especially when you consider the fact that they were the ones that found this early lead in game number 1.
Yep, just kind of happened as how SOFM pathed towards the top side, and they chose to be the aggressor in the bottom side. Looked like, again, they did want to push that wave in, maybe get a good recall by some aggressive item like another Doran's Blade, maybe get the bounce back, set up a gank later for SOFM, but it didn't work out. Peanut finds the gank, and 1-0 for LGD.
And for the second game in a row as well, we see Peanut being the one with an early kill, and we see SOFM being the one with an early CS lead in that jungle. It's interesting to see the two different styles that we have in front of us. Peanut moving up towards the top side will clear away the vision. Maybe could look for a repeat there later on.
And we see Peanut coming down, and if you notice, Chance is already here. LGD can make an aggressive play since they have numbers advantage.
Peanut is a level down here, though, so does need to be a little bit cautious on the 1v1, but looks like both teams decide to back away. 30 seconds until the first dragon will spawn onto the map. We'll see if either of the teams do want to focus on that objective early on. Let's bear in mind, SOFM went for that pretty much on spawn in game number 1.
Yep, both teams have some pretty strong early team fight potential, so it will just come down to who gets their waves pushing first and can set up vision. Peanut taking the Scuttle Crab is obviously a huge indicator that they will probably be the ones, since Yuki did already get the lane push and is already recalled. So LGD can look for this first dragon.
They certainly can. Peanut going to be able to grab the crab, as you said. Now we'll move over towards his Grom. Huan Feng going to be spotted on... SOFM is on the bottom side of the map as well, though. He's currently doing his Croaks. So it's not necessarily a free objective for the side of LGD, as Ly's getting a really nice trade there onto Bew. That's the power of the Haymaker, though. Just does so much if you can land the true damage from the middle of that blast.
And we were wondering if we would see another Blade of the Rune King set coming out, but he is maxing his W, which typically means he is going to go towards that Trinity Force. We do see Q max when you go for the Blade of the Rune King.
I'm curious how much of a playmaker Angel is going to be this game, because Angel is one of these mid laners that we've seen some really high highlights from, but he's not necessarily the player that you look to carry every single game. And as you mentioned before, we've not actually seen his Zoe this season in the LPL.
We've seen it once.
Oh, we have seen it?
We've seen it one time.
How did that go?
That's a good question. But actually, I already know he didn't win on it. Their only wins have come from the Azir and Kassadin so far, so...
Angel has been a player that's been disappointing on the Zoe in the past now. We'll see how he's going to be able to perform. I mean, I've been impressed by Angel as a player recently, so I'm hoping that he can have a good impact on this Zoe.
The thing I like about Angel is when he's on a champion that has the agency to make a play, so something like the Azir that can go and make that, as Dagda likes to say, the swoop and boop, the Shurima shuffle. I love him on the Kassadin, which can kind of just jump into the backline. So seeing him on a champion like Zoe that really has to play back and rely on the vision setup, the team setup, will be kind of a new thing from Suning.
It definitely feels like the direction that Suning are moving in, though. Because when you can... Oh, actually, Trouble Bubble lands in the mid lane. I don't think there's any follow-up, though. Yuki's going to be trying to clear up. But as you mentioned, relying on the team, that's kind of the style that Suning are leaning in towards, especially with their composition in game number 1. Here we go, though. Showstopper comes on through. Lies gets massive damage onto SOFM. Blast Cone. Peanut flashes into it, though, but he's found himself alone. Sleepy Trouble Bubble blocked, though. The Paddle Star denied by Yuki. How did no kills come out of that?
That Showstopper was so beautiful and aggressive. Had Yuki even just been slightly closer and able to ult him, SOFM would have been dead.
For sure, so close. And SOFM gets onto the Blast Cone. Peanut flashes to get on the Blast Cone with him, but then Angel saves him. It was incredibly back and forth fight there. So many summoners used.
We also haven't seen the confidence of either team to make an objective play. Right now, we do see Sword Art and Huan Feng heading towards the top side, and pings are coming down to that Rift Herald. So maybe right now we are going to see a trade. LGD are posturing for the Dragon, but as I say, that chance starts his recall.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because when you look at game number 1 of the series, it was very much Suning the ones forcing these objectives. Suning's the one setting the pace for the game. And now that Suning aren't in the driver's seat forcing things, oh, blue buff going to reset, very sad. Suddenly things slow down pretty dramatically because LGD, they're not going to be the ones to make things happen quickly.
Yeah, the game is a lot slower than I expected when you look at these drafts of two team comps that want to do very similar things and are both very explosive in 5v5s. That reset from LGD made it look like they were going to go contest the Rift Herald, but do decide to just take the Dragon with Peanut getting so low.
Yeah, understandable, and just going to allow this Herald to go over. It does mean that this top tower could be in jeopardy here. Vision control completely in favor of Suning. Death Sentence won't land, though, and it means that Lies can walk away safely. Peanut finishes this Dragon. Now with Rift Herald in the top side, you'd expect this to be the first tower going the way of Suning.
Yeah, and it does look like they're going to take down a lot of these plates, build up those bulwark resistances. Then I wonder if we're going to see the Rift Herald here coming out from SOFM, and we will. So they should be able to secure this first turret, and you're putting a ton of gold into Huan Feng already, the tried and true Suning strategy.
And, you know, even though it didn't work out so hot in game number 1, I think especially with the Aphelios pick, you like to give him the gold. You like to give him all of those turret plates, and Huan Feng going to be able to hit his power spike significantly quicker.
Yeah, and we don't even have to reference all the insane, like, Aphelios clips we've been getting the last few days and what he can do, especially with those Infernum combinations in team fights.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting how we've seen different versions of Aphelios, different ways of succeeding? And, you know, when he first came out, it was all about Infernum. Every Reddit clip was just a 5-man Infernum ultimate. But actually, you don't get to see that as much as you would think during the team fight. nice.
Yeah, and it is also interesting to kind of see the build paths where sometimes you see people go the Essence Reaver and Runon's build, which is a lot more focused on that cooldown, being able to use your Q more consistency and getting that kind of slightly better wave clear from that, or the IE Rush build, which is a lot more focused on just hard DPS.
When you look at the way Suning have drafted, actually, when you think about Aphelios, not one of the favorite champions of the community. I think that's fair to say. Take a look at the mid laner as well. Can you remember how the community welcomed Zoe into the Rift when she first came in? Pretty similar reception to what Aphelios got. This is actually a really annoying composition from the side of Suning.
It is a really annoying composition. It is kind of two of the favorite champions in LPL, of course. Aphelios is just busted, and Zoe is like our go-to blind pick mid laner here in China.
And also, can be considered busted in the right hands. If you find a bit of a lead for yourself, you're good at lighting those trouble bubbles. Man, there's just no surviving the burst.
It's one of those things where ahead, Zoe's just so oppressive because then you are able to get that vision set up and abuse like the sleepy trouble bubbles over terrain, which just catch you off guard and you're like, oh my god, what is this range? But coming from behind against a well-structured team, Zoe could also feel really hard to play and quite useless.
There's been quite a few games in the LPL as well where we've seen Zoes that are very far ahead, but there just isn't the setup from the team, or maybe they're just not, they didn't eat their Weetabix that morning, but Zoe just doesn't seem to have much of an impact in the fight.
Yeah, and we don't see Zoes much in other regions. That's so them.
Peanut just about gets away, but nothing going to happen on this one. Still 2 minutes until Drake. And no Herald, so
we are 11 minutes in, and we only have 1 kill.
This is a dramatically different way to continue the series than I was expecting.
The last game was so exciting. You had constant aggression in the early game and all these huge explosive team fights later on.
But once again, it was down to Suning setting the pace, right? They were the ones that were making all of that aggression happen in the early game. Then they lose that game. Maybe they've kind of just took a step back and said, oh, hang on. Maybe this series doesn't go the way we want it to. Showstopper in the top lane. BuBu going to get the stuns, though, with the slicing Maelstrom. Lai's still tanking. A nice dodge from BuBu. There's still a lot of minions under this tower, though, and the re-dive is going to come through. Haymaker there. In the meantime, knock up onto Sword Art. Kramer trying to dash away. He's staying out of tower aggro. He's stacking up the Rens, and Angel's knocked up. He'll be taken down by Yuki. Everything going the way of LGD here. BuBu escaped in the top side, but now a route onto Huanfeng. There's a hook as well. The Pierce goes through. Not quite in range of the Ren, though. Kramer can't finish the kill. Yuki can.
We didn't see how that dive started on bot side, but still LGD coming up huge in their dive, while Suning completely botching theirs. And if you're LGD, you feel really great right now. 4-0 start. We've talked about that, how LGD has had a lot of really good early games this split.
And now onto the tower as well. Sword is going to be here to try and defend. I almost feel like you could try and dive that one. I don't know if Aftershock was on cooldown maybe, but Chance still had his flash. I say you go for the play, but that's just me.
We do see them get the wave set up here. Good Sleepy Trouble Bubble coming in, and Peanut jumping in on the back end. Gets blown up, and Kramer here just defending so well.
Yeah, so fam, like,
oh my god,
he made
Kramer.
an attempt, but it wasn't much of one, that's for sure. Huanfeng then gets rooted. Chance gets to follow up, and I mean, one more Q finishes the job in the end. Frank, what was it that killed him there?
I didn't see either. All I know is Kramer played it beautifully. We can see why they are first rotationing this Kalista.
I think there was maybe an Iceborne Subjugate or something around still from Yuki. I'm not sure. I didn't quite see what got the killing blow onto Huanfeng. It doesn't matter. All that matters is he got the gold. He's finished his Proto Belt as well now as those Merc Treads. And Dragon's going to be spawning once again. I'm
going to be honest, that whole sequence was very hard to follow with how our replay went back and forth at the last second, but point is LGD come out on top, but Suning already heading over for this Dragon. BuBu using his push to head down, and I want to see Suning kind of be the aggressor, see if they can get this aggressive flank from the Kennen. He doesn't have the Gunblade yet, but still should be really strong if they can CC this Kalista and, you know, hit a really good Moonlight Vigil.
We'll have to CC if we can CC that CC. Turret comes out though, massive damage from the Moonlight Vigil there. And well, Infernum was out, and that means that the Dragon is going to go the way of Suning. No, actually looking for Kramer here. Sword Art going to be the one to walk forwards. Teleport now from either Lies or Yuki. I think it's Yuki coming on in. Chance on the front line, flashes away to safety, but there's a huge hook onto Kramer. He'll drop right at the start of the fight. BuBu, good stuns, but he's low himself and taken out by the Showstopper. Haymaker keeps Lies alive. And we see everyone backing away once again. So 1 for 1 so far.
Yeah, BuBu found a really good ultimate.
Sword Art with the hook. That's a death sentence and a half right there. That should open up the dragon.
If you were LGD in that situation, you felt really good with them engaging with the Yuki TP coming in. We did talk about how their composition is a lot more focused on these front-to-back team fights. It did end up being a 1-for-1 because Kramer did get pulled into that Kennen ultimate, and then Sword Art finding that pick on the back end was just kind of the icing on the cake.
Yeah. And Sword Art setting up the kill onto Kramer as well, getting the play on in to set BuBu up with the stun. Peanut will be able to answer at least with a Herald, although maybe not. BuBu has his Gunblade here. He's going to get the ward down. Kramer's here too, though. I think BuBu sees better of the situation.
Going back to your point on Sword Art, Thresh was the pick that he was huge on when he was on Flash Wolves. And we talked about before he came to Suning, he was known as this really engage-heavy player. Then when he was paired with SMLZ, he was a lot more known as like a babysitter, would play things like the Yuumi, the Braum, the Tahm Kench. And now being back on this roster, he has gone back to his roots on these more aggressive champions.
Yeah, love to see it. Love to see the strength of Sword Art on this Thresh. And you saw it in that skirmish. The question will be when we get to the later stages of the game, will it be enough to shut Kramer down? Because game 1, Kramer was the issue on this Kalista. Nobody could get onto him. Will they be able to get those hooks? Will they be able to finish Kramer off in these fights?
That's a good question. But LGD getting this mid tower because Suning decided to put their resources in the bot lane. It is just 2 turrets for 2 turrets right now. Even going into the next Drake in 3 minutes. Sleepy Trouble Bubble doing absolutely nothing. We haven't seen Angel show up on this champion the way we would have liked to.
Not so far, at least. Does have the Ludens as well as just finishing his boots off recently. But
we even set up that SOFM had so many options in this early game on who we could play around. You have a Thresh in the bot lane. You are Jarvan plus Zoe. You hit a Sleepy Trouble Bubble. It should be lights out from there. You have a pressure top laner that could constantly roam with you to control vision, but we didn't see much in those first 10, 15 minutes of the game.
Now, it's important to mention that even though Suning do get that dragon for themselves, it's still very much LGD's game right now. They're the ones with the gold lead. They've got arguably a better dragon for themselves as well. They're going to be even on towers, and they're trying to set up a play, but there's a ward there, my friends. They have been spotted, and now Suning, they're going to be the ones that try and turn this one around. Trouble Bubble onto Yuki. That's half his health gone already. SOFM gets the Flagger Drag. He's kicked on back, though. He's not that tanky just yet, but BuBu's got the damage. Lantern comes through to pull SOFM to safety. Another Trouble Bubble. You said the Zoe wasn't showing up. That's you proven wrong, my friend. BuBu with a double, and now onto Lies as well. Knock up onto him. The Showstopper under the tower, though. Haymaker goes on through. Angel doesn't quite have the damage just yet. That's going to be a Moonlight Vigil. There's a death sentence as well. Sword Art's showing up. You were absolutely right on Sword Art. The Flash Wolf support coming back through in the LPL and now onto the towers.
And the big player to highlight for me there is BuBu.
Yeah.
We gave BuBu a lot of flack coming into this series. We've seen twice now where he's using his pressure, roaming towards the mid lane, which gave Suning the numbers advantage in the start of that exchange to win that fight.
Maybe BuBu wasn't the problem. Maybe the tank picks were the problem. Let's see more of BuBu on these carries. I'm liking the Kennen so far.
I'm just saying, we did say he's played Janna 3 times, Ornn twice, Renekton twice, Set once. There's kind of like a common factor. Where are these carry champions, BuBu?
And Angel on the Zoe as well, getting a good couple of Trouble Bubbles.
And the big thing for me here, great Trouble Bubble, but they are standing on a ward.
Yeah.
But BuBu already coming down with this rotation, opens up the ultimate, and they just delete these 2 carries from LGD. Now LGD really have no option, just having to throw Chance out, and pretty easy follow-through from Suning, but still beautiful death sentence coming from Sword Art.
It's really, really good to see Suning staying on top of the situation there. The question, though, is like LGD, this time they've got a control ward for that brush. They're not going to make that mistake twice, but you have to wonder, maybe don't go for a brush play if you don't have a sweeper or a control ward.
Yep, it is maybe one of the fundamentals of
That feels
this
like
game.
a pretty easy thing to work out, right? But I don't know. Seems like a silly mistake to lose your lead for.
Now going into the mid game, we are going to see LGD try to play around the fact that they have pressure in sides with this Lissandra compared to the Zoe, and set, of course, a Bruiser compared to Kennen, which is going the AP-focused teamfight build. So LGD pressures from sides to mid. Suning, kind of the opposite. We want to see big team fights coming out of them.
Well, speaking of team fights, going to have a dragon coming up soon. Sort of finds a ward in his jungle there. SOFM going to face check into 4 though, but they don't want to fight just yet. 10 seconds and this Ocean Drake will hit the map. Let's bear in mind, this will be an Ocean Soul. Very, very impactful soul for the team fights.
Yeah, and even though we did just set it up like that, both of these teams have very strong team fight comps. If Kramer can get off unscathed, LGD are going to do work, while we want to see BuBu use his ult.
Yuki wants to make things happen here. BuBu gets away with his electrical surge there. Sword Art just going to get focused down at the start of the fight. Onto BuBu as well. Lies going to be shutting him down. The Cannonball only onto 1. Yuki goes gold and keeps himself alive. Lies gets away as well. Kramer trying to do what he can, but finally a kill goes the way of Suning. 4 versus 3 now. And Suning want to keep going. Huanfeng's on the Aphelios. He's found himself a double. SOFM wants to keep him going as well. Angel flashing forward, looking for the paddle star. It's not going to find it. Lies getting onto Huanfeng, but the lifesteal is there, and so is the kill. Double for Angel. Peanut trying to get away, but SOFM doesn't want him to. He doesn't have a choice.
This Aphelios damage is just too much. Things were looking good for LGD in my eyes when Suning weren't able to pick Kramer off with their first rotation of spells. You do have very good consistent damage coming from that Kalista, but still we just see how much Huanfeng's autos were doing just in general in that team fight.
It felt so good at the start as well when Lies finds the 1v1 with BuBu. Slicing Maelstrom doesn't hit the whole team. It's like, oh wow, they've shut down the cannon. Maybe this is something, but Huanfeng was just chilling at the back. He could just free fire the entire time.
And Angel, again, one of the quiet heroes, is always just consistently able to throw out those paddle stars under no threat from LGD.
So far, so good for Suning now that we're getting into these 5v5s. And one of the big questions for us, in fact, let's take another look at this first, then we'll go back to the question.
We see Yuki go straight into the back line here. Again, things are looking good for LGD at first. You pretty much have a 5v1, 4v1 coming in. And here, when, like you said, the Slicing Maelstrom does nothing, but SOFM does so much damage to the backline of LGD. Kramer just kiting around. I'd feel pretty good right here from LGD. You have a numbers advantage, but we just see the damage coming from the Aphelios right here. Just, ugh.
And it's that Calibrum Crescendum combo that we were talking about before. He had 1,000,000 Chakrams stacked up from his Moonlight Vigil, lands the Crescendum Q, or the Calibrum Q, sorry, and then all of those Chakrams follow up on the auto attack. Kramer gets deleted. And as you said as well, Angel during that fight, consistently finding the bubbles, consistently finding the paddle stars.
SOFM and Angel just set up that fight really well for Huanfeng to clean up the back end.
Chance can't quite find the fight he's looking for onto SOFM there. And one of the criticisms we had for Suning coming into this series as well was that their team fighting, their skirmishing sometimes can feel a little bit coordinated. Sometimes it can leave something to be desired. And in game number 1, it did feel a little bit that way, especially towards the later stages of the game. It felt like they weren't really sure how to win these fights. This game, though, suddenly things start to be going, things seem to be going their way.
Yeah, we already saw it in game 1, that being one of Suning's huge holes in their gameplay. It showed up big in their series against E-Stars, which they did lose 1-2, and maybe through some better team fighting could have pulled it off. But this game, again, just that last fight, beautiful counter-engage coming out from SOFM onto the backline of LGD, allowing Angel to hit those paddle stars, and Huanfeng just doing Aphelios things. Yeah.
Great positioning there from Sword Art as well on the Thresh. You mentioned it way back at the start of the game, where they could have done that during the level 2 when they got ganked, stepping back, getting ready for the Lantern, and allowing Aphelios to do his thing.
Suning getting the priority in mid lane, does set up the Herald, but they decide to recall. Maybe afraid that since LGD did just recall, maybe they'll have an item advantage on the map and don't want to take a fight with a gold disparity despite you being ahead in gold.
I mean, one of the big things that you do have to bear in mind as well is Suning, they looked like this in game number 1 as well, right? They had a 3,000 gold lead in game number 1. It all fell apart when they tried to push the objectives too aggressively. I think this time around they're being a lot more careful and they're a little bit more cautious about how they want to approach these objectives.
And just seeing those statistics that were just brought up on the screen, we see SOFM has 100% kill participation. Angel has a 90% kill participation. Both of them showing up huge in this game.
Absolutely massive here. The blue buff going to be going the way of Angel as well, so he'll be able to consistently just throw out these paddle stars throughout the fight. And take a look in his inventory. He's got a Dark Seal with 10 stacks. It's possible that we could see a Medjai's come through here. I'd love to see it. It would be a bold play from Angel.
We could see the Medjais come through. We also see the Morello Namicon, which we already touched on a lot yesterday, so I won't touch on a lot again, of, again, sitting on that Oblivion Orb and getting closer to your next big spike. But again, if you're Suning, having those stats in your pocket right now when you're going to set up a big fight in a minute and a half for that Ocean Dragon are pretty good.
Yeah, you feel pretty good right now. 1 minute 15 until the Ocean Dragon that you were alluding to there, and it would be the third Drake of the game for the side of Suning. That would put them on sole point.
One thing I want to point out is we do have Yuki and Lies both on the bot lane. When you have double TP, you can look for one of these plays where you get the kill on the cannon, and then you can both TP towards the Baron when the enemy's trying to force it.
I just want to point out something Huanfeng is doing there. He just autos the Baron a bunch. No intention of actually going for the objective, but he wanted to get his Severum available. This combo of weapons right here, this is how you two-mana Baron with Aphelios.
Yep, so again, Suning are already kind of posturing to do that, and we do see LGD looking for a completely different play, looking to catch Bubu on the bot side, but Bubu knows his role on this team. Bubu knows he's the weak side player. He's not leaving his turret.
Not just yet, no. And it doesn't look like Suning are going to pull the trigger on the Baron play here.
Yuki has been in this bot lane now for like a minute and a half looking for this play.
He's not going to find it because Sword Art has found him in the end. This Thresh can posture very aggressively. The ward comes through from Lies as well as he realizes he needs to back away on this set. Now Drake going to be spawning in 5 seconds time. Both teams, you can see heavy priority on these Drakes.
Yeah, and LGD able to get here first because they did have Set pushing in the bot lane. You do have Kennen coming around on the other side, though. Look out for that.
Trouble bubble on Kramer. The paddle star barely misses there. Hook comes through. It lands onto the Dragon. Flay back from the side of Sword Art. He actually has to flash out of the fight. Lies getting low in the pit as well. SOFM stepped on in. It's a big ult from Bubu, and everyone comes back into it, but he's shut down regardless. Top laner for top laner to start this one off. Cataclysm in. Peanut has to try and get on out. The Dragon will go down as Huanfeng finishes it. And now on to the likes of Yuki. He'll be finished off. The Claw does nothing. Chance flayed back in. And Aphelios once again free firing. Kramer shut down. Another double for Angel. And another kill for Huanfeng.
Despite the fight starting out uncoordinated with Sword Art and Bubu going in at different times, we just saw the poke coming out from Angel hit strong, the slicing Maelstrom forcing Kramer to flash over the wall, and then Suning in a good position when LGD have no cooldowns.
And I like the decision here not to go for the two-man Baron earlier, because you got to go contest that Drake first. Then once you've killed them all, you can three-man Baron instead.
Yeah, we saw LGD get priority on the Drake, but it left Bubu with a good flanking position to come from the backside. And Suning in a good place.
Suning in a really good place. And this time around, maybe they can keep this ball rolling. Maybe we don't see the throw that we saw in game number 1. LGD, though, still not out of the running just yet. They are going to have a lot of late game prowess. And it was a while before Kramer's Callista came online in game number 1.
Yep, but here we see the replay of this fight. Again, Bubu and Sword Art not really in sync. Sword Art had already gone in, but still your slicing Maelstrom does threaten Kramer to flash over that wall. And we've already seen Zoe doing what Zoe does, hitting a lot of good paddle stars here. Flashing in with the flash she had already picked up. Sword Art once again hitting another beautiful death sentence. This is the Sword Art that we like to see that's been to the World Championship so many times.
Magnificent stuff coming on through. I want to see more of the Thresh as well. I want to see this every game now from Sword Art. Maybe we need to see some more of the hooking champions as well. Maybe that's just his jam, you know?
Yep, we have already seen he's played the Nautilus and the Blitzcrank. This is his first game on Thresh this split and already looking really good.
And isn't that just so typical of a support that's been around League of Legends for so long? When you think back to the really strong supports, you always think of things like the Blitzcrank, things like the Thresh back in olden days.
It's just some roles right have that benchmark champion for junglers. It is the Lee Sin. For supports, it always has been the Thresh. That if you're one of the contenders in this role for best in the position, you play this champion at the highest level.
While we're chatting and reminiscing, by the way, Suning have just waltzed on in, took themselves an inhibitor basically for free. Yuki's forced out in the mid lane now as well. Lies, I mean, great. You managed to get a top lane tier 2. How did that feel?
We've talked about in first game how both of these teams have really questionable late game shot calling. In game 1, we saw Sunings. Here in game 2, we do see LGDs.
We certainly do. SOFM moving towards the mid lane as well. No more tier 2s on the map for the side of LGD. a significant lead now with still a minute on this Baron buff. Huanfeng will be able to start to step forward. With this Infernum as well, you can't get too close to that minion wave.
Yeah, and QSS in Huanfeng's inventory, so all that CC not going to be able to just lock him down. He will be able to freely move in these fights.
And that's interesting as well, because we didn't see that in game number 1 up against the Mordekaiser. Lies goes in, but the QSS flash from Huanfeng is beautiful. That means that he can be on the backline, DPSing away. Yuki will go down. Another great hook. Fate's Call saves Chance, but Sword Art is just a monster. Now onto another inhibitor. This might just be game.
Yeah, we talked about how LGD had to look for this kind of play coming in. Beautiful flash from Huanfeng, and they should be able to look to close out the game right here.
They had to reset after game number 1, but there's yet another hook. Peanut will go down, Chance will follow, Lies can't go anywhere. And Kramer, suddenly, on this Kalista, maybe the damage just isn't there, my friend. He'll fall on the fountain, another for Angel. 8-1 and 8 on the Zoe, as we finish things off 19 for 9, and Suning pushes to game number 3.
And the thing to highlight there